Hey gang, Clay here at Mountain Music Exchange. Today's guitar spotlight, we're going to be talking about the Fender 70th Anniversary 70's Stratocaster in Antigua. Okay, before I get started, gang, I just want to ask, am I saying that right? Is that Antigua or is that Antigua? Is it pronounced some way that I'm not remotely familiar with? Let me know in the comments below. Any and all assistance is appreciated, and thank you. Okay, first up, the striking finish I think is going to catch everyone first and foremost with this guitar. It is sort of, I think it's been sort of a polarizing finish with Fender over the years. Some people really like Antigua because of its uniqueness. Some people really don't like it for maybe the same reason, or they think the color isn't exactly suited to their tastes, what have you. I'm not sure, but I happen to really like the color, or the burst, I guess, sort of. One thing I really like about it actually is that the pick guard is Antigua matched to the rest of the guitar, which you don't typically, if ever, see on any other Fender guitar. So I do think that's a neat aspect to this guitar. And this guitar is priced at $14.99. Comes with a hard shell case. Actually, it's a pretty interesting hard shell case, really. It's not a G&G hard shell case, I don't believe, but it has very much a G&G vibe to it. If nothing else, it's definitely got a 70s vibe to it. It looks sort of higher end than the typical sort of wood hard shell case that you'd see. Once you take a look at the inside of that case, you'll see that it's a step sort of above the standard case, but maybe a step sort of below something like that would come with a custom shop, like a G&G or something to that effect. But it looks very era specific. I like it a lot. So with that being said, gang, let's go top to bottom on this thing. So check it out. First off, you do get that big Fender headstock, the 70s, late 60s, 70s. We're just gonna call it the CBS era headstock. You get vintage style tuners on that, which I think look really good. And of course, you can't really like have a 70s style without these tuners. These buttons are intertwined for eternity with the 70s style Stratocaster. I like the bullet truss rod. I think it does add to the ease of use on adjusting your truss rod. You don't have to necessarily dig in quite so much, or if you've got an Allen wrench or a truss rod tool that, you know, maybe doesn't dig in as deep, you know, as the inset, you won't have so much trouble getting to this one. So I think that's pretty neat. All right, on this one, you've got a U-shaped neck. So it's not the typical Fender C-shaped neck. This is a U-shaped neck, which I really find to be a little different. It feels a little bigger in the hand. It feels bigger than some of the 70s Strats that I remember holding. I had a 79 a while back and it felt almost razor thin by comparison, but it is incredibly comfortable. It feels the hand very well, and that's capped off with a rosewood fretboard, not Palfaro, not some alternative wood. This is a rosewood fretboard. And if I had to say, I would say that this has a darkness that I do enjoy. It does look like a relatively dark rosewood. But if I got this guitar, I think the first thing I would do is probably apply a little lemon oil. You don't have to. It certainly doesn't look like an off-color rosewood or dry or anything like that. I would just do it just to add a little depth and a little darkness to it. Narrow, tall frets on these. So these frets are very narrow. Your mileage may vary on that. I don't think this feels bad at all. I actually kind of like the smaller frets to some degree. I typically play something with a medium jumbo, but that's just me. Like I said, your mileage may vary. And I think once you really start to play this and really get into it, again, with a lot of different aspects of guitar, once you kind of get in the groove, I think you're probably not really going to have much in the way of complaints about these frets. They feel good. They, as you go up the neck, they don't make any sort of funny noises, at least on this example. So yeah, I think those are good frets. You get a 7¼ inch radius fretboard on this, by the way. And that is, again, another typical 70s sort of aspect of the guitar. A lot of people say that the action on a 7¼ inch, or the ability to bend, you lose some of that as you get a rounder fretboard radius. But I tend to find that, you know, if you're going up, say, a step in a bend or something to that effect, I've never really had any trouble with a good setup on these. I've never really had any trouble whatsoever being able to do that. So I think 7¼ is just fine. Once you sort of radius your bridge down here, which is a vintage style bridge, by the way. This is also a hardtail, which again is another sort of 70s hallmark. I think is neat in the respect that it celebrates that sort of 70s heritage to its fullest. This may be the most sort of 70s guitar from Fender. I mean, shy of like a 72 Deluxe Telecaster, right? But I think that this may be the most 70s version of a Strat you can possibly get. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. Sorry, gang. And you're also going to get 70s style single coil pickups with this. Of course, you get your volume, tone, 5-way toggle switch, standard output jack for a Stratocaster. And another dead giveaway, if you're looking right straight at the front of this and you can't really catch it just yet, your eye doesn't tell you, hey, this is a hardtail. Let's turn around to the back. No route. You just have your string through ferrules here, sort of like a Telecaster. On the back too, you still have the Antigua finish, which Fender's always been pretty good about this, but I've always been a sucker for a burst also being on the back of the guitar. I don't know why. No one really is ever gonna see it if you're playing in front of anyone. I just think it's neat to have an attention to detail where this sort of has just a little bit more of an art aspect to it. So you're gonna burst the front, you're gonna burst the back, it's gonna be symmetrical, it's gonna be uniform, and I just really applaud Fender for doing that sort of thing. Another point here that is super 70s, the 3-bolt neck. I don't know exactly why they originally began the 3-bolt neck. If you know, let me know in the comments below. And again, any and all assistance is appreciated. Anyway, but this has the 3-bolt neck, which I really like. It's sort of got this sort of badge look to it instead of just a 4-point bolt plate. So as far as looks go, I actually think I might prefer this too. And then you get one of my favorite ever Fender sort of factory modifications that began in the 70s, the micro tilt adjustment. So you don't have to shim the neck. You can just adjust it to where you kind of apply pressure with a plate and push up a little bit on the neck. And you can sort of get that perfect angle for that perfect action. So I think that may be another reason that the 7¼ inch radius fretboard doesn't really tend to bother me so much. Overall, I guess the question really is this guitar worth $14.99? We're gonna play it and you're gonna hear it here in just a second, but is the guitar worth $14.99 for a made in Mexico Fender 70s Stratocaster? And I'm going to say yes, and here's why. These guitars are probably built more uniformly and better in quality than an original 70s Stratocaster. Now, I've played plenty of really good 70s Stratocasters, but I think all in all, for a long time, the CBS era sort of had a bad rap for not being consistent or for having sort of quality control issues back then, you know, before what we know now is sort of FMIC proper, you know, the modern company, which sort of began in the 80s. I think these guitars are built more uniformly. I think they are built to better quality, better specifications. This is also a limited edition. If you didn't notice earlier, on this 3-bolt plate back here, you do have the Fender 70th Anniversary Stratocaster, 1954 to 2024. It's a relatively ornate bolt plate. It also denotes, you know, a sort of desirability or collectability. The quality here, this is a Vintera Series guitar, so the quality here is really, really good in that the pickups in all of the Vinteras that I've played have always been very accurate sort of to the era. So this is going to be a little brighter, I think, and a little more in your face than you know, a 50s or a 60s, because that's just how they were wound. They weren't necessarily wound to a vintage spec at the time. You can see they have all flat pole pieces here. And you also get a really nice case. I talked about it earlier, but you get a really nice Fender case with this. Typically in the Vintera series, you get a gig bag, and it's a very usable gig bag, but it is nowhere near the quality of the case that you see sitting next to me here. So all in all, for $14.99 for an anniversary edition guitar with a really nice case, genuine Fender quality, yeah, I would pay that for this. If I were in the market for a Strat, I think I would actually do that. So very cool. I like the color. I would even specifically go for an Antigua Strat. Another thing I like about the Antigua Strat, by the way, is, you know, and I know you can always modify your own Strats, and there are plenty of Strats that have the black plastic work, but the Antigua comes with the black, and it sets really well with the rest of it. And it's also, again, a very 70s vibe. There is no newer guitar right now, I think, that will get you a more 70s vibe There may be guitars like, you know, I know that in the American Original series now you can get a 73 Stratocaster, you know, and it may be built pretty much to spec. But with this particular guitar, I think you get just as many 70s appointments as they can possibly throw at you. So if this is your vibe, this is the one to get, I think. Plus, the polyurethane finish on these, you can take these and play these and you're not going to wear these out. I mean, they may get pick scratches and they may get other things if you ding them or you're not careful. But all in all, you can take this and just play it and then just put it back up, and it's never going to really wear the same way that a nitro cellulose finish would wear or anything like that. Point being is you can take this, have this, play this, and still keep this and collect this, and it's gonna work. It's gonna be just fine. So yeah, I think $14.99 is probably a pretty good price point for this. Everything is going, you know, I'm sure if you're watching this, you may have seen that I've reviewed some Epiphones recently. Those are going for a similar amount of money now with the Inspired by Gibson Custom Series. A couple of them are even going for more. The Firebird, for example, is going for, I think, $100 more than this. So yeah, I would say with Fender on the headstock, all the right appointments, the quality, honest to goodness rosewood fretboard, $14.99 is not a bad price for this. But does that all matter if it doesn't sound cool and look cool? So let's check it out right now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna play, I'm gonna try to run through all 5 switching positions on here, give you guys an idea of what this sounds like clean, what this sounds like with some overdrive, and then finally what it sounds like with some bite, with some gain. I'm going to be using a Line 6 Helix on this one. That's going to be the floor. And I'm also going to be using the amp models therein, the US Princess Brit 2203. Again, to give you an idea of some bite, some gain, some clean on all 5 switching positions with this guitar. So without further ado, let's check that out. So one thing I noticed that I really like with this guitar, the way it sounds. First of all, it plays great. The action is really, really good. The setup, this is directly out of the box. Myself, our tech, nobody's laid hands on it to adjust anything. So this is just straight out of the box. One thing I really like about this is the action is good, the playability is good, but these pickups are relatively versatile, especially considering in your mind when you think about a 70s Stratocaster, you think about, I don't know, like a pickup. I think of a pickup that sounds a little more wiry, especially under gain, that sort of handles, maybe a little thinner, maybe not as full or as rich, but I think especially in the neck and middle positions on this, that this guitar really has a depth to it that I didn't expect to hear. And I think the bridge position holds really well under higher gain situations. I don't really have any complaints with this guitar, although I'm sure, you know, you've seen the other videos. I don't typically, I tend to look at things through rose-colored glasses, so I don't typically find myself having a ton of complaints with a ton of guitars. I can find something to like. about pretty much anything. This maple neck feels great when you're playing. The pickups sound good, everything works really well, and the setup's nice right out of the box. So that's gonna have us on this one, gang. Check us out online at mountainmusicexchange.com. You can see this guitar and more new and used gear in the new arrival section. Also check us out on Facebook, check us out on TikTok, check us out on Instagram, and that's gonna have us on this one, gang. I appreciate you guys watching a ton. Thank you all very, very much. Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, hang with the gang. I'm Clay, you rock. Have a good one. We'll see you.